In this episode of Lift Arc Builds, I recreate some complicated control arms for a race car nobody knows anything about.
Let's go!
Let's go! What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Go eat at Bread Crab.
Yeah.
Sidebar, look at the things you can get on Amazon.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
You get these like little white boxes and you can look, doink, doink. You get like remote control outlets. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool. I actually am probably gonna get one of those.
Yeah, dude, 15, and it's a little watch battery, $15 on Amazon. Not a paid sponsorship.
Nope.
My buddy Evan Perry owns a cool shop in town, the town of Roanoke, in case you forgot, called Mill Mountain Motorcycles. Dude has a great collection, great techs that work there, and he services motorcycles, cool ones. And he bought from, I guess, the program director at Virginia Tech, what is called a Formula SAE car, which now that I've been working on this for 3 weeks, I've had some time to talk to him and get more details. As far as I understand, a Formula SAE car was built for like a university sort of engineering racing project or series. So essentially, maybe you took it as a class or it was the engineering department at Tech. They had like a budget of $80,000 to build this like custom open wheel race car. And so it's a full tubular chassis with a motorcycle engine and like Miata hubs, and it's like a Frankenstein thing. So I guess this was like the one from 2010 or something. So there were two cars identical. The main guy kept one and then Evan bought the other one from him. So, Evan being a motorcycle guy, it has a motorcycle engine, I can see why he's into it. Apparently these things are super fast. They don't weigh anything, and a motorcycle engine makes like 100 horsepower. In any case, he was driving it up Windy Gap Mountain, or back down Windy Gap Mountain here in Roanoke, and he was downshifting from third to second and dropped the clutch without rev matching, so that broke both the rear wheels loose. The car spun around, he hit the guardrail, and it ripped all the control arms off the side of the car. Off one side of the car. What he tasked me to do about a month ago now is to make not only a replacement for all the members on one side of the car, but a whole extra set of control arms and linkages. So we've got 4 different types of control arms. So the suspension is a double A arm type suspension. So each, like the front control arms has an upper and lower, and the rear control arms have an upper and lower, and both left and right side are symmetrical.
For total car nubs, what even are these? Like
Okay.
what is their function?
All right. What is a control arm? What is a linkage? Really what I'm recreating here is everything that holds the wheel to the body of the vehicle. So the body is a rigid unit and the wheel is attached to what's called a knuckle. The knuckle really holds the bearing and it is what steers when you turn, and it has the brake assembly on it. The knuckle holds all the spinny bits. But these are what, the body's here, the wheel's out here. Everything in between that is this. And they move as the suspension goes up and down. Just like any car, when you hit a bump, the wheel has to give. Otherwise, it would be an insanely painful ride. So the way they built these was with spherical bearings. You can see that situation there. Mm-hmm. I can actually illustrate this. Imagine this is like a bolt on the chassis. Mm-hmm. And so you can see that this thing can move while being attached to a rigid member. So spherical bearings are just exactly that. They're not really meant to spin, they're meant to articulate. Now they're all 4 different types of arms. 2 types of arms have what are called heim joints. And heim joints are essentially spherical bearings, but in a bolt situation. It's essentially a bolt with a spherical bearing in the end. The reason these are nice is you can change, by screwing them in and out, you can change the length of this piece. So it's likely they did that in order to align the car. And if you've ever gotten alignment for your car, an alignment is to do with how the wheels sit. Toe, camber, caster, all that stuff. And then there's all these straight linkages, which do exactly like the name suggests. They link two things together.
Gotcha.
So the task at hand is to remake these handmade control arms for this car that nobody knows exists. So essentially I'm recreating some things that were built by people much smarter than me at the University of Virginia Tech. But it's, let's go. You know, how hard could it be?
Famous last words.
All right, here we are. Mill Mountain Motorcycles. This is Mr. Evan. How you doing, man? This thing is wild. We gotta do some fixing. We gotta remake some suspension arms. Gotta fix some leaks. Straighten the chassis. We got all the tube. What was this thing?
Formula SAE car from Virginia Tech from 2004, I think.
What powers it?
CBR 600 F4i engine.
4-cylinder, fuel injected.
Honda power, baby.
Honda power. There's some Hondas in here.
That's right.
Honda, Suzuki. Limited slip diff. Look at that rear sprocket.
So a lot of this stuff was, custom made by the Virginia Tech team.
Right.
So
What'd you say their budget was? 80 grand?
like 80 grand or something.
Incredible.
So obviously it's not something you can just order parts for.
Right. So we're gonna take some of the spare suspension components back to the lift arc, make some sets, get this thing on its wheels, then he'll get it fired back up and we'll straighten the nose and modify it, and then who knows, maybe you guys will come with us to the track.
No doubt.
So you
no
put
doubt.
some speed behind this thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to film this so I had it. Look at all this stuff. I've made something like that for the front of my drift car, actually.
Yeah.
What did they use for hubs?
I think actually they had it made.
Is that a knuckle from something else?
I'm not sure. They may have had it made.
Yeah, looks custom.
But it's all 4x100. Willwood brakes all the way around, front and rear.
Which is what, like Honda and Miata?
Yeah, I think so.
Those are Miata wheels, aren't they?
They're aftermarket, but they look a lot like the factory 5-spokes
Yeah.
they came with. Unfortunately, I got rid of most of my cool Miata stuff that I had.
Dude, how does
time
your
ago.
big ass fit in here?
It's tight. The guy actually didn't want to sell it to me. He was like, you have to fit in this before I'll sell it to you.
Oh, sure.
And he was like, because I don't want it going into somebody, getting it with the wrong hands.
And then like
'Cause they'll
never
do something
using
like
it.
this to it. Anyway, at least we have the ability to fix it.
Just because you fit doesn't mean you have the
That's
right
right.
hands, I guess.
That's right.
Dude, is this the shifter?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
the clutch is on it.
Right.
And so it's, quick detach wheel. And so I do, believe it or not, fit in there.
That's
there's no
nuts.
padding in the seat. So like the
Is this just a
exhaust
carbon
back-
fiber bucket?
Yeah. Well, it was. So my ribs took care of that.
Oh, yeah. Dude hit a guardrail after he spun because you locked up on decel, right? Yeah.
Cold tires, and it was just, I was going like 20 miles an hour, shifted down from fourth to second, and just let go of the clutch too much, and it was like hitting a brake.
Right.
And she just spun and just went right into the guardrail.
Yep. And it was cold slicks too,
yeah.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
there they are there. That'll do it. Full on external radiator.
Yeah, way oversized too.
Fucking reservoir, inboard shock absorbers.
Mountain bike shocks.
Oh,
Locks.
sure.
And they're all completely adjustable and everything.
An actual rack too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they definitely put their time into getting it right. The brakes you can adjust them so that you get more bias front to rear.
So you've got a master for front and master for back, and this is your
it's-
throttle.
Yeah, and you can adjust it here.
That's
So
cool.
it's got a couple things that I still want to take care of. Like the throttle linkage here is pretty jacked up.
Yeah, that's
Got a
like
chance to
backyard
maybe
go-kart
taken care
style
of.
right there.
But I think it'd be really cool to get a titanium plate on the bottom of it so that it like shoots sparks everywhere. That'd be cool too.
Yes. Or magnesium.
Right. So. Yeah. Magnesium. Yeah. Like the more you look at it, it's like, oh wow.
Some real thought went into it. You can tell engineers built it because everything's connected with Heim joints.
Right.
Engineers love Heim joints.
I especially like the Coke Zero cherry bottle over here.
That's your overflow expansion tank?
So I got a Motion Pro, expansion tank that's specifically for that. So
You should still cut out a sticker that says Coke Zero and stick it on the side of your actual tank.
That's right.
All right. Well, hit up Mill Mountain Motorcycles. Look what these guys work on. Motorcycles.
That's right. A little bit of everything.
All right, we'll get her fixed up. High five, don't let me hang. There we go.
Dude, it's a big paw.
You want to fight about it? I'm going through all the parts that I got from McMaster Car, and I'm just assembling some things to further wrap my head around project. So that is a Heim joint. It's a spherical bearing. It has this sphere with a hole in it on the inside. It's essentially a ball joint, but with no play whatsoever. And then I got these jam nuts, and I got these threaded rod ends. These get welded inside of the rod. So I'm putting together all these assemblies to look like that. When I cut my tubes to the right size, these go into the tube, and then so we'll be making essentially that. That's one of the old arms with a threaded deal in there for the Heim joint, see? So this is what I've got to recreate. So I'm gonna use these threaded rod ends, nice solid threaded pieces of steel, to capture in here somewhere. There's a lot of phases to this project, but I think I'm just gonna wrap my head around one problem at a time. If I know how to recreate the ends of all the arms, whether it just be straight arms that are threaded, you know, that's pretty straightforward, or these arms that have Heim joints on one side and spherical bearings on the other side. These the cups needed to weld onto the tube to insert the spherical bearing is what Jake is making me at Paltauf machine. I'm just gonna keep going through here, matching up my rod ends with my Heim joints. Here's our little assemblies. Got our left-handed Heim joint rod ends, and then our right-handed Heim joint rod ends. These are all 1/4-28 thread, and these are 5/16 24 thread, both right hand. These are the bigger ones for the end of the A arms, and the smaller ones all go into these straight linkages. They're easy. They're just tubes with right-hand thread on one side and left-hand thread on the other side. So when you spin the rod, it effectively increases or decreases the length between the left-hand Heim joint on one side and the right-hand Heim joint on the other side. Now I got all these corresponding nuts, which are the same as the Heim joints, so that I can make some jigs. I've got 5/16 24 right hand, 1/4-28 right hand, and I've got a threaded rod that I have for 1/4-28 left hand, so that I can make some jigs, screw the rod ends into the jigs, and cut my pipe. Sort of formulating it as I go. This looked a lot neater a second ago, but I laid out all my parts, and this is the whole set. And so what I did was measure everything. The distance between all 3 points on the A-arms and the length of the straight links. And I measured center to center to center, and instead of like welding flat bar together or cutting out big squares, I'm gonna use the power of CNC plasma cutting I'm gonna draw basically a bunch of V's or maybe some triangles with the hole locations laid out, so that making my jigs to reproduce these will be a lot easier. You know, in the ones where there's 3 Heim joints, it's really just 3 studs that stick up and locate all the bearing cups. On these, there's 2 Heim joints and a threaded hole, so I'll have a tab in the base plate that comes up with a hole that I can thread in my rod end, this piece, and then studs where the spherical bearings are. And then these, it's just a matter of cutting them to the right length, so to include the rod end in the end. So it's like this length minus that. So I'm gonna take all of this that I've come up with and go to Fusion and draw a bunch of parts. You know, for these, I'll just cut out rectangles and I'll weld 2 tabs up. For these, I mean, I'll just cut out a rectangle that's bigger than the profile, and I'll have a tab that comes up here and a tab that comes up here with a locating hole, so I can, again, put my rod ends in and bolt them to the tab at the locating hole. And then when I go to weld everything, it's gonna be exactly the same. So let's take all that to fusion. All right, got our templates cut on the plasma cutter, and it's time to see if they're close at all. Yes, that is perfect. So, got our triangles, got the holes located where they need to be, and so I just put some studs up through the holes, space them all the same height. When I get my new bearings and my new caps, load those onto the 3 points, cut my pipes to go in between all the bearings, tack it all together. That is how you use a plasma cutter to make some templates for suspension arms. How about that? Okay, so I'm still waiting for parts. Hi, let me look at you guys for a minute. Hello. How's it going? Making some progress on these suspension arms. I'm doing this project in between other projects, and I'm quite pleased with my plasma cut templates. These are all the arms. Again, I'm recreating, and so what I've made is some plates that have studs sticking out of them that correspond with all the spherical bearings, so that when I get my new weld cups and spherical bearings, those can be loaded on the plate on the template, and then I can cut my new rods to go in between everything and then just tack it up. So I'm making jigs to make my parts. So this arm C and A doesn't have a spherical bearing at the tip like these do. It uses a Heim joint, which is one of these, one of those fellas. So that's not super important. So what I'd like to do is take something like this and make, cut it down, make it the right height, and make it to where I can take my rod end, which is this. This guy is meant to be welded into the end of a rod and therefore accept a Heim joint. So if I get a tab welded here in the right spot, I just use a bolt to bolt the rod end to the tab, and there's the point that I have to connect to the spherical bearings with the actual tubes. I hope that made sense. I'm sort of making it up as I go, but that'll get bolted to there. Once the tab's in the right spot, that gets bolted to there, and then a tube can get welded to it and then be integrated into the rest of the structure. That's the plan as it exists right now. What do you think?
I'm ready to go back to bed.
So a lot of tedium here. And all these straight stabilizer bars, I just cut out rectangles that are the general footprint of them. And again, I'll have a tube of tab here, tab there, studs coming through the tabs. I'll weld my rod ends on and then put the tube in between the rod ends, probably first, but that'll hold everything in place while I weld everything up. But these are ready to go because it's just 3 spherical bearings and they're all at the same height. So these are ready to build once I get my new cups from Paltauf machine and then the actual tubing that I'll be using. All right, there we go. Got all the jigs made for the straight bars. I made my own left-hand thread bolts, and then of course the zinc-plated ones are the right-hand thread. Once I get the bar I need, just screw the rod ends to the tabs here, set the bars in there, weld everything up. Those are good to go. The only thing left I need to do is the tabs that will support the threaded ends of these guys here.
I need a new finger.
So here's what I was doing. These jigs have the heads of two bolts sticking off the back of them. So what I did, I was lucky enough to get two of them to fall into holes in the fixture table. So now this sits flat, and I've got two 1/4-inch studs sticking out, and I've got my tab on this side. When I welded the tab on, I was using 1/4-inch spacers to position everything. So now, everything indexes properly. When I go to remake the arm, I screw my rod in here, I put my two spherical bearings and cups here, and then I have these 1/4-inch spacers here to help me locate the tube. So that's what we got going on. So I'm waiting for Jake to finish the weld cups for the bearings. For the small bearings, I've ordered the weld cups for the bigger bearings. I have the bearings themselves. So what I'm gonna do is switch gears, and I have everything I need to make the straight links. So I'm gonna make those straight links. I'm actually gonna make some things now instead of just making jigs and templates. But we've covered a lot of ground, and all the jigs are just about ready to go. So when it gets a little more metal in all the right parts, start cranking these things out. We're actually getting close to the end here. Like that.
Now we can drink.
Not quite. So here we got all the straight stabilizers and linkages jigged up. These are the rod ends, the weld-on rod ends that I got from McMaster. There's right-hand and left-hand thread, one of each for each one. So now that all that work is done, I just got to measure from this shoulder to this shoulder, cut my tubing, undo one side, slide the tubing in, push the other one in, weld everything up, wash, rinse, repeat. So these are ready to crank out. And being that I only ordered four feet of each size tubing, I'm just gonna go ahead and do those. And now that I know I like this size tubing, I'll order more of it. So this is DOM tubing. It's working! It's working! Well, there it is. So now we just weld in between the bevels there. Fits so good. Why did it fit so good?
Good.
How satisfying is that?
That's kind of lovely, man.
Isn't it? And now it's got, these things are made to where it gives you the perfect bevel. Put a weld in there.
That's lovely.
Thread
You
it.
spin it while you TIG it.
No, because these won't spin. Silly goose. He may not be at the bar, but in his mind he is.
I'm already gone.
All right, we're back on the SAE car suspension arms, and we had a delivery from McMaster-Carr yesterday, and I've got all the pieces that I should need to do this. So among what we got already, we got a lot more of these threaded rod ends, right and left hand thread, quarter 28. And then I got an order, these were kind of tough to find. So these are what, the smaller versions of these is what Jake Paltauf is making over at Paltauf Machine Works, but these were available. These are weld cups for 13/16 OD spherical bearings. So how these work, this is the spherical bearing, when it's just it's not really a roller bearing, it's more of a, call it a Heim joint, call it a swivel bearing. It's a race, you know, an outer race and then an inner sort of spherical ball with a 3/8 hole tapped in it. And so these weld cups allow, you put the bearing in the weld cup, a circlip goes on the inside. And so now I have this cup that I can weld to something. For instance, you know, if I wanted to put it there, weld it to something, and now I have a receptacle that I can, you know, if the bearing fails or whatever, that's how you service it, because you don't want to weld the bearing itself directly to a thing. So we've got 6 of those weld cups. We've got all the bearings. The smaller ones are the ones that Jake's making the weld cups for on his CNC lathe. Hopefully we can show you some of that process. We got all the external Heim joints we need. Again, all the rod ends, and then just some other hardware that works. Mocking everything up in these jigs, so at least the straight ones. So being that these are fairly self-explanatory, I'm gonna go ahead and knock out what's on the table here. I'm waiting for more of this tubing from Online Metals, but being that I have at least these 4 jigged up, I'm gonna go ahead and start welding those up. And if I have enough tubing, I have this a decent amount of this 1/2 inch left from the first test order. I'm gonna take the 1/2 inch. I think one of these arms is made of 1/2 inch. This one, B, is made of 1/2 inch instead of 5/8. So I can mock this one up, except I don't have the weld cups from Jake. But I can measure and cut and get that going. I also, these were some old ones that he included, Evan did, and the weld cups on these looked like crap, but there's enough material to just cut the weld cup off and potentially reuse. So I might be able to salvage some of these with the right weld cups once I get them. So there's some work that can be done today. Again, at the very least, we can weld these up, prove the concept, make sure the jigs are gonna work, and potentially do some other mocking up. In any case, I'm trying to push this one out. It's getting warm outside, and I know Evan wants to drive the car, so I'd like to get these pushed out and get them going. Just gonna do what I can right now, and we'll keep bopping around, and you know, I'll move to another project in the meantime, but when more things show up, hopefully I get an order from Online Metals today. I get some more of this tubing and I can really start cranking. But let's do some TIG welding on these joints. The plan here is just to fill that gap. You know, everything's tight in the jig. I'll do some tacking, probably symmetrical tacking, one on each side. You know, once it's reasonably held in place, I can loosen the bolts on the outside of the jigs, and I can spin this thing like a rotisserie and be able to weld all the way around this joint. These rod ends are nice. They're sort of beveled already, so you get a nice little space where your weld can live. I got some of these to fit tighter than others. Like that one's pretty tight. This one's got a decent amount of slop. So I think I'm going to take notes of how everything fits. That way on the next round, you know, that's still fine. I can fill that with a weld. And of course, when you split the difference, it's not bad at all. In fact, it might be better to have more of a space for the weld to live versus this one that's like right up against it. But I'll take notes on how it fit given the cuts that I made, and then we can adjust from there. I'll be using the Everlast 210 EXT to weld this up. 3/16 tungsten, gas lens, number 17 torch. I'll probably run the foot pedal just so I have ultimate control over my heat. Otherwise, I would probably set the pulsar and just use the trigger here. But this little Langmuir fixture table is certainly coming in handy. So if if you do this sort of thing, definitely give the arc flat table a look up from Langmuir, because it's for the footprint it offers a lot of functionality. Digging it so far. Enough talking, let's weld. Obviously I'm pissed and I really don't want to film this, but somehow welding this bung in screwed up the reverse threads here on this bolt I made, and it's jammed in there. It's probably because I used the impact driver. It's probably because I tried to remove the bolt while everything was hot. I'm mad, and I don't want to be filming this, but here I am. I'm going to bring you with me. I'm going to try to heat this up, the body itself, try to expand it away from the bolt, see if I can back it off a little bit. Got some movement. Come on! No! Broke it right off. That thing's never coming out. I'll try to make it hot and get it out with vice grips, but I don't think it's happening. Too much coffee, not enough patience. Come on out of there. All right, we got it. Should have done that before. Oh, no, it's just broken off in there. Why would that happen? Broken off in the rod end. Obviously a burr or something down in there. Damn it. There's a piece of the freaking stud broken off down in the rod end there. Incredible. Man, is that annoying. Why would that have happened? I guess it got hot and expanded and bit, or maybe there was a burr in there, but that's unacceptable. That's only like 3/8 of an inch of thread before the plug is jammed in there. So I can try to drill it out, but it's a pretty big oversight. That really sucks. I'm gonna have to be more careful. I can try to drill it out maybe. Increase your tolerance window, okay? As far as things that are jammed in somewhere, that's really jammed. And I am just gonna ruin these threads. Now I just need a 1/4 28 reverse left-hand tap. That ought to fix it. I'm working on increasing my tolerance window for things that go wrong. It's okay. It's just a thing. It's just rod end. It's like $8. Am I mad? Yes. Is it worth freaking out over? No. There's plenty more to go. I'm gonna grow up. I don't know why I'm so hung up on this, but I've searched every little tap container that I have in the shop looking for 1/4 28 left-hand tap. I know I just need to let it go and replace the $8 part, but I've searched every tap collection I have. And I got a bunch of 1/4 28s, but no left-hand threads. If you know, any mechanic knows that when your table looks like this, you're having a bad day. Anyway, I ordered a 1/4 28 left-hand tap from Amazon. It'll be here in a few days. I'm gonna keep welding. I think what I'm gonna do is tack the rod ends on and then pull the bolts out so that they don't get hot or upset inside the rod end while I'm welding it all the way up. I left it bolted so that it wouldn't move, but obviously if this is what's gonna happen when they get hot with a bolt inside, I'm not gonna do that. So the one I did is still potentially savable. I'm just gonna keep going and do the other ones. Hey everybody, Tay here, and I'm with Jake Paltauf over at Paltauf Machine Works.
How's it going, guys?
Right out here in Bedford. And as I've been telling you, Jake helped me make the weld cups for the apparently super rare 21/32 spherical bearings for the suspension arms. And Jake used this sweet CNC lathe to do it. Here's what he ended up making, and Jake's gonna draw something up over there to show you how he did it, but that's the problem to be solved. The weld, so this again can be welded to the suspension arm. The spherical bearing drops in there, and then the circlip, that's what we're trying to replicate right there. So then the circlip follows the spherical bearing and locks it in. That sweet groove he cut right there. Anyway, introduce yourself, Jake. Say
Let's
hi.
go, guys. My name's Jake Paltauf, owner, operator of Paltauf Machine Works. This is my shop. I'm just gonna quickly show you guys with a pen. I meant to take a video, but it kind of slipped my mind.
This is the machine that did it here.
Yeah.
What is this thing?
It's a track CRL 1440P with the LS2 proto track controller on it. It's 2 axis. It's great for tool room stuff. It's, you know, if I want to run a small batch or something, this is really easy to program to get it to go right. And I don't have to, you know, have a massive CNC machine that takes a little longer to program if I'm running like 1,000 parts when running 24 parts. This is a lot more geared for that.
Yeah. What year is it?
I think it's a 98, 1998.
It was kind of screaming 90s to me a little bit.
Yeah.
That thing. I love it. So anyway, yeah, this was sort of the problem to solve here. And yeah, how did your tooling
This
navigate
is
it?
basic tool path of what I did is I had tool 1 come in, face out, and I did a chamfer on it as well. I didn't draw that here, you can see that. So it would face out, do the chamfer, and then turn down the diameter, just taking 10,000ths off the OD just to clean it up. Then it would jog back over to home. I would switch out the tool to tool number 2, which was my boring bar. And when this started, it was just a 1/2-inch hole going down the middle of this. So my boring bar came in, and this would be my boring bar like this. And it came in, came back out, jogged out, came into the step, came out, jogged back out, and then it would do that until it left 3/1000ths on the diameter. Then it would come back out and take a finish pass, come in, and then jog right through the inside of it. That would come back out. I'd switch it over to tool 3, which was my grooving tool, 40,000 thick hand. This was a broken one, I broke it. But that's 40
Homemade tools, ladies and gentlemen.
40,000 thick for the snap ring groove. It would jog into the depth that I needed so that the spherical bearing would fit with about 3,000ths clearance. Jog out to the diameter that the snap ring called for, and then come back in and out, and then I'd switch it over to my parting tool. It would jog down here. I'd put a screwdriver on the inside of this. It would come in, buzz this right off, and then all I had to do was a second op on the backside just to put another chamfer and clean it up.
I mean, it looks awesome, man.
Thank you.
You proud of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
Because you got that landing on the backside to catch the bearing. I mean, again, I think this is nicer than what was on there before.
Right here.
Yeah. Right, like these are nice, but so there were other arms. Maybe these are like their revision too, but I had some older arms with the same geometry where the cups looked like they were just made from like tube.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
And they sort of
Kinda
just
slapped together.
made, I don't even know if they made like a weld bead around the backside to hold,
Just
it,
to hold
in,
it in. Okay.
and then like cut. I don't know what they did. These are nicer than I remember them looking, but
Okay.
But we got a little more meat right on the outside,
Yes.
the thickness
Yeah,
of the cup.
this was 825,000. That's 875 seventies.
Which is great because we got to weld it anyway, so to keep it from deforming.
Yeah.
You should see how fat the weld cups I got for these.
Real big.
Yeah, I mean, like the wall thickness is like damn near 3/16.
I would think that's probably so when you weld it, it doesn't pull as much.
That's my thought. Yeah,
Maybe I should have gone a little bigger on those.
That's
I was
all
just
right.
matching the sample.
I'll control my heat real well. You know, I'll
but
probably
that's
put the
why-
bearing in when I weld it to act as a heat sink, or maybe I'll get a piece of aluminum to stick in there.
Okay, that's not a bad idea actually.
You know, aluminum's usually a great weld backer.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
suck the heat out of it. You don't happen to have any aluminum that would fit down in there, would you? Solid rod or anything?
I'm gonna have to look.
I bet. No, actually, I do. My lathe works good enough to turn it
Cut it a
down.
little bit.
Yeah,
All
for
right,
sure.
that's good.
Well, sweet, man. Yeah, and here's all the parts. And we got the snap rings. They were metrics originally, like 17 millimeter internal snap
Yeah,
rings.
that's it.
Yeah, this might as well be a sponsor video for McMaster-Carr
They're
because
everywhere.
I spent like $700 at McMaster-Carr doing this whole thing. You can still have parts made in America, ladies and gentlemen.
You got it.
You have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Tell them where to find you.
Paltauf Machine Works, which is this right here.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. Paltauf Machine Works on YouTube.
Yeah, look us up. We got a couple videos. We got a couple more coming.
Thanks again, man.
Yeah.
You killed it.
Thank you.
Onward and upward. See you guys. All right, we're back to the shop now from Paltauf Machine. I was saying his last name wrong. There's no U in the first part, it's just Paltauf.
Gotcha.
Thanks for being patient with Jake. But so I want to test this. So these are the weld cups I had to buy, and these are the ones that Jake made. Honestly, these are overkill. Look at, so this is the bearing that needs to fit in it. This is what he made.
Ooh.
Look at that. Look at that, man. That kid's got some chops. So, you know, you see the groove in there for the snap ring. Everything's good. So obviously on these things, now we have everything we need. Those are the cups that get welded to the end of these tubes. This is the cup that gets welded to the end of these tubes. Bearings go inside of them and are ready to go. So one thing I want to do is I want to try to control heat when I weld these things. So I have this aluminum bar that I'm going to attempt to turn down to act as a heat sink. So when I weld this, I can just slot this in here and this bar will soak up some of the heat from the weld and hopefully keep this from distorting. Keep it as round and as pure as possible. So I'm going to turn one side to fit into the big one, and I'm going to turn the other side to fit into the small one. But I'm no Jake Paltauf, so. Aluminum machine, so nice. There you go. It's my heatsink piece. That one's a better fit than that abomination, but when I go to weld, I'll stick that in there. Hopefully that's not gonna do anything. Remember that thing I was complaining about the other day? This is that thread. I fixed it. I got a reverse thread tap, 1/4-28 left-hand thread tap, and now I've been able to save that. All that fussing, $8 tap. Save the day. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble some of these links just because I want to. This project has progressed in such a way that I feel like I've been jumping around a lot. So I'm gonna take all the links that I've made, including the old ones now, and just put all the heim joints back in them because that's gonna make me feel good. And because I didn't label anything, we just gotta guess which ones are right hand and which ones are left hand. This whole car is gonna need an alignment when everything's said and done. I'm actually gonna chase all these threads with a tap anyway because I want them to be smooth. Oh, that one's a little crunchy. Don't exactly recommend speed tapping with a drill, especially this terrible Makita drill that has the worst chuck ever. Yeah, just welding it deforms it just enough. Yep, and that cleans it up nice. Isn't that satisfying? Stabilizer bars. Hello, hi, how are you? Back at it again on the SAE car suspension. So I've got my first arm jigged up, and I did some of this off camera, but I'll show you because I've got plenty to do. So my threaded rod end is pushed into the end of the tube, so I'll need to weld that. I've notched the end of the tube to fit around the bearing cup. I've cut that tube at an angle and sort of notched it to fit around there, so I'll weld this and then I'll weld that on there. And then I'll weld this here. And again, you know, this is what we're creating. So we're going from that, making it out of this, and then I'll just cut some gussets. I probably don't need gussets. I could just do like a connector there, but might as well do it the way they had it. It's taken a while to get here, but I think I'm either going to weld this up now or go ahead and make my other parts for this arm while I can still remove things from the jig and I can use them as patterns and then just weld all three of them at the same time. I think that would be a more efficient way to do it. I can now pull these back out of the jig, you know, and use that as a reference to make two others just like it. The jig's working out well. These weld cups from Jake are really nice. Just got to get them sitting in there straight. You know, the spherical bearing likes to wander. Yep. Anyway, let's cut some more.
We have creative. to take it, I'm getting it back. And if they hit me, they gotta get taxed. I'm making hit after hit after hit, and I promise you, boy, every one of them slap. Hop on a verse and I body it quick. They never work, and it's why we don't mix. I don't got time for the fake, and I swear that I'll always stay real, something they never did. Oh.
There you go. Just had the board out a little bit. And then this rod end here, threaded 5/16 24 rod end, will go in there and just gotta press it a little bit with an arbor press and it goes right in. Nifty. Uno mas. Oh no, I left the chuck key in the chuck for a second. Are you guys gonna freak out about that too?
Oh, you should go ahead and write over. I was in a 4, leveled up to the Rover. Feeling like Blake, I'm a
No gloves this time. Everybody okay?
checks. I've been in the gym, so you know I got a flex.
Almost don't need to weld that. It's such a nice fit. Left a little gap there to weld it. And we'll insert the other one.
Now they tryna send me that text. I ain't hit them back, they stress. I'm needing honeys on honeys, cause that's what I'm worth. Show me the finish, I'm getting it first. Show me the best, and that's me and my worst. I need that money, I'm getting it.
Lovely.
But I started way down. I told them hundreds of times that I'm really done waiting. I swear that I came for the crown.
Just did that on like a grinding wheel, you know, nothing insane. There we go. So I've got 2 ready to go. I'm gonna weld them up. All right, I'm working up this gusset here. So this gusset in the middle, that thing. Obviously it's sort of 2 triangles that are all connected at the back. So what I did was lay this arm over this construction paper and just traced that part. And then I flipped it, traced that part with a space in between. So I cut that out, and then I cut about a 1/4 inch off of each end because tracing the outside I don't want it to be all the way out here. I need it to come in and land on the midline of the pipe. So I basically offset this double triangle rhombus shape and made it smaller all the way around. And then I cut 2 little notches in the sides here. The reason I didn't film this is because I didn't know exactly what I was doing at first. But with this, we have the new arm, and this template fits right in there, like that. And it wraps around, notches out. I pretty much eyeballed most of this, but traced for the starting geometry. So that ought to work nice. Everything lands right where it's supposed to. So I'm gonna take this template. I mean, this is essentially, for those of you out there that want to do this or something like it, this is the shape, the 2-dimensional shape you'll cut out of steel to make a gusset that goes in between 2 pipes. So I'm gonna trace this over to some 18 gauge steel and cut it out. We use this machine to do it. It's called a nibbler, and it does exactly what you think. Or rather, it's a throatless shear. Pretty neat. Worked out great. I'm gonna finish welding in there first and then weld that on. And now I have my template for the other 2, but all 4 arms have different gussets, so I'll have to just do that a bunch. That worked out very nice. So this is the arm you just saw me build. It's most of the way there. I gotta make sure this is spaced apart right. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Jake Paltauf and Paltauf Machine for making these bearing cups because they've been working out so good. So I did my best with this aluminum thing we made the other day to control heat. And so this is after welding. Look at this, there it goes. See that? And then this one too. But after carefully controlling my heat, they fit great still. So on these things, these snap rings, I don't know if I've showed you this yet, but I had to. So on that one, the eyelets are full size. And if I were to put that in here, the eyelet touches the center of the spherical bearing. So I just have to take it on the little belt grinder over there and flatten the backside of the eyelet. Not so much that it erases the hole, but enough to make clearance for the actual ball in the middle of the bearing. So you put it in here now, that snaps in, and it goes click. And now you can see that the bearing can still move around and not hit the eyelet of the snap ring. So that's how these are all getting assembled. These I bought, and actually that used to look like this, and this is what I turned down in the lathe because it just felt like there was a lot of extra material up here for no reason. So that I turned that down. I didn't show you that either. This should just drop in. Should. I haven't tested this one yet. There it goes. Just a little kiss, little smooch. And then I had to do, these came from Pegasus Auto Racing, or Pegasus something or other. I've had to do the same thing where I filed off the inside. See, there's one, and there's the other one.
I had to do that very
Which is
slowly.
weird because these were, I bought these, and they came with the snap rings, but they still didn't allow clearance of the bearing. So you can see now, you had to file those off so that this bearing has freedom of movement. And so now I put my bearings back in, and I'm gonna put this back on my jig before I weld all of it up. Because see, it's still, I can flex it a little bit. So before I weld this joint up completely, I want to put everything back on the jig, like so that all 3 points are located exactly where they need to be. And now I can weld this up without worrying about it moving around on me. So it's very tedious. These were very precisely built things, and there's no real way to cut corners. So this is one of 4 of the arms, and this is 4 of that same arm. I built these 2, so you can see the final result of that gusset that I cut out and welded in. This one was on the car. This one came with the car. These legs were the wrong length, so I just cut those to the right length and fit new bearing cups on there, and I was able to recycle some of the work that somebody else did. So that helps. This one actually has 2, because I don't think he damaged this one. So I only have to build 2 more for this, for B. That's number 3, and I think I've actually run out of this material. This is the only arm that's in 1/2 inch versus these are all 5/8. But in any case, I'll have enough soon for Evan to put the car back on the road. I have, it looks like 3 of number C. So that's helpful. All I gotta do is retrofit the bearing cups back onto these, and then D, I've gotta make 3 from scratch, and this is the biggest arm. By the end of the day, I'm really hoping that I get at least 1 complete set so Evan can start putting the car back together, get the hubs on it, and get moving, and that gives me a little bit more time to finish up the remainder ones. But everything's fitting pretty good. Everything takes a lot of thought and a lot of precision. And I don't do this every day, TIG welding with such importance placed on heat control. I'm using my pedal, and this jig table has been great. This Langmuir Systems fixture table has been awesome because these are pretty small fixtures. So I can use my stool with wheels on it and just roll around and be able to tack to everything. I try to use big chunks of metal as heat sinks to try to keep heat out of the parts, and that's been working. These bearings fit right back in after welding, so they didn't deform, which is impressive because they barely fit before. Jake's fit up was perfect. So anyway, Evan, I'm trying, I'm getting there. It's been kind of a distracting week. I'm heading into my 30th birthday, so I've been doing some planning for drifting coming up and some parties and stuff. So, yay!
Happy birthday, Tay!
By the time you see this, I will have already turned the ripe old age of 30.
Yep.
But cue all the old guys in the comments going, "You're just a young buck."
Yep.
And I am. I feel good for where I'm at in life right now.
There we go. Let's get Tay 40K subscribers for his 30th birthday.
Hey, smash that like button.
Yeah.
Drop kick that subscribe button.
Yeah.
Compliment that like button. Tell it nice things.
Give it a little kiss.
Just a,
Mwah.
Anyway, I just wanted to, I drug Walker out of the office because I have been, as this project goes on, I've been less and less motivated to continue to film it just because I'm tired. So I just wanted to take a minute and bring you guys up to speed. You can put this as a VO or whatever, or maybe you've been watching this entire monologue in its entirety, but now you understand what's going on, how it's been working, what I've been up against, the challenges I've faced, but now it's really just more of the same, get them all done, and I'm really excited to see how they fit on the car.
Mm-hmm.